para jaya Prabhupada, jaya Prabhupada, jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, jaya Prabhupada, jaya Prabhupada, jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva. Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivakacharya Ashtotar Sarasri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Om Nitya Lila Prishna Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivakacharya Ashtotar Sarasri Srimad Bhakti Saran Sotako Prabhupada ki jai. Anand Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Shri Rupa Shri Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Sadgoswami Swami Prabhu ki jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की ब्रजभूमि श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय नवदीप मायापुर धाम की जय जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय गंगामय जमुनामाई की जय श्रीमती तुलसीदेवी भक्ति देवी की जय सामवेद भक्त वृंद की जय हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवत महापुराण की जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे all glories to some devotees, all glories to some devotees, all glories to some devotees, all glories, Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, chapter 12, text number 3, entitled Rahugana Converses with Jad Bharat. Tasmat Bhavanatam Mama Samyasa Artha Prakasyami Paschat Adhuna Subudham Adhyatma Yoga Gratitam Tava Uktam Akhyayi Kautuhala Chesta Me Tasmad Bhavantam Mama Samyasartham Prakyasyami Paschad Anu Subhadam Adhyatma Yoga Gatitam Tavaktam Akhyahi Ahutahala Chetoso Mae.
Adhyatma Tasmad bhavantam mama sansharatam prakashyami paschat adhuna subodham
Prakshasmi vasad adhuna sabodham
adhyatma yoga grthitam tavoktam
Adhyatma yoga gatitam tavyaktam
akhyahiko tuhal chetaso me
Akhyahi ahuta alasitosme
Tasmat bhavantam mama samshayartam
Samshayartam
Rakshami paschad adhuna subodham
Shami vasad adhuna sabodham
Adhyatma yoga gratitam tavoktam
Adhyatma yoga gatitam tavyaktam
Yahiko tuhalo chetaso me
Khyali hatu alasitosme Ladies.
Tasmat bhavantam mama samshayartam
Tasmat bhavatam mama samyar
Rakshami paschat adhuno subodham
Rakshasmi paschadhuno subhadam
Adhyatma yoga gratitam tavoktam
Adhyatma yoga gatitam javaktam
Akyahi kautuhala chetaso me
Tasmat bhavatam mama samasarthaya Satanudam sabodham Adhyatma yoga gratitam vyaktam Yaki Tasmat therefore Bhavanantam to you Mama of me Samsaya Artham the subject matter that is not clear to me Prakashyami I shall submit Paschat afterwards Adhuna now Subodham so that it can be clearly understood Adhyatma yoga of mystic instructions for self-realization Kratidam as composed Tava your Uktam speech Akhyahi please explain again Kautuhala Chetasa whose mind is very inquisitive to understand the mystery of such statements may to me. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Whatever doubts I have about a particular subject matter, I shall ask you about later. For the time being, the mysteries of yoga instructions you have given me for self-realization appears very difficult to understand. Please repeat them in a simple way so that I can understand them. My mind is very inquisitive and I want to understand this clearly. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. The Vedic literature instructs Tasmet Gurum Prapadyaj Jignashu Shreyasa Uttamam. An intelligent man must be very inquisitive to know the transcendental science deeply. Therefore, one must approach a guru, a spiritual master. Although Jad Bharat explained everything to Maharaj Rahugana, it appears that his intelligence was not perfect enough to understand clearly. Therefore, he requested for further explanation. as stated in the Bhagavad Gita 3:34, Tadvidi pranipratena pariprashna sevaya. The student must approach a spiritual master and surrender unto him fully. Pranipatena. He must also question him in order to understand his instructions. Pariprashana. One should not only surrender to the spiritual master, but also render loving service unto him. Sevaya. So that the spiritual master will be pleased with the student and explain the transcendental subject matter more clearly. A challenging spirit before the spiritual master should be avoided if one is at all interested in learning the Vedic instructions in depth. Om Jnana Trimandandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshuzanvaltam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Vanchakalpatrubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyaja Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So in this conversation by Maharaj Rogana to Jad Bharat is very important for our spiritual understanding, as explained here in the verse and also in the purport by Prabhupada, that Jad Bharat made a very clear distinction of explaining the science of self-realization, the transcendental knowledge. But even though it was very clearly mentioned by him, Rogana Maharaj was having difficulty in understanding. I think this is very much a similar position we are in, that we also get access to the scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and many other literatures discussing the Vedic science. And also it has been taught to us many times through different programs which we have set up, like Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhava, Bhakti Vedanta, so forth. Even after all this, it is very difficult for us to understand the transcendental nature of self-realization. So we try to understand these things sometimes through speculation, sometimes to use our intelligence, which of course we don't really have. Because in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna very clearly says that intelligence comes from him. And how does the intelligence come from him? He says that in the 10th chapter of the 10th verse, Tesam satatam yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadhami buddhi yogam tvam. That unless and until we worship him with pure devotion and love in our heart, that dadhami buddhi yogam tvam will not come. That intelligence will not come. So unless until that higher intelligence is presented to us by the Supreme Lord's grace, we cannot understand the subject matter. Although sometimes in our egoistic understanding we think, I am very intelligent, I know everything. Just like the previous verse is saying that my mind is full of serpent of pride. We take pride in our intelligence, that yes, I am very educated, I have got a PhD or master's degree or so forth. But these are all useless. It's not going to help you in the real subject matter of life. Prabhupada says very clearly that the subject matter of life is to understand what is our purpose. Our purpose is to be free from the clutches of illusion and render service unto the Supreme Lord. After all, eternally we are servants of the Supreme Lord. Jivere Swarupoye Nitya Krishna Das. That if we are eternal servant of Krishna, therefore we should be always in the mindset that we are here only for one purpose and one purpose only, to serve the Supreme Lord. But we serve everything under the sky except the Supreme Lord. So that intelligence is not coming. And sometimes, as I said, we are endowed with some intelligence, but this intelligence is a free gift of the Lord. It's not just to human beings, but to all living beings. Every living being has a certain level of intelligence. And this level of intelligence is basically there to allow us to survive in this material world. Without this intelligence, we could not survive. For example, in the animal kingdom, if the animals didn't have intelligence to look for a source of food, then what would happen to him? Obviously, the animal will not look for food. If it's not looking food, very quickly it will find that it's starving, and it will die through starvation. Same with us. We have intelligence, and what are we using our intelligence for? Basically, as Prabhupada says, fulfilling the basic animal propensities of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. But we don't go beyond that. Unless until we are fortunate enough to receive some special blessings of the Lord and His pure devotee, that we are awakened to spirituality. So this movement Srila Prabhupada started was for that purpose only, to awaken the sleeping souls to reality. And what is the process of reality? Is Prabhupada saying is very simple. Just recently we celebrated Nasing Chaturdasi, the appearance of Lord Nrsimhadev, and I was listening one of the lectures Prabhupada gave on the actual appearance of Nrsimhadev. And in that lecture, Prabhupada mentioned a very, very important point which actually struck chord to my heart. Prabhupada said that the process of self-realization is based simply on having faith in the holy name and taking Krishna prasadam. Then further Prabhupada said, our preaching should be based simply on giving prasadam to everyone and giving them the holy name. Let them hear the holy name. Now, when Prabhupada said that, it kind of struck to me that yes, we are making such elaborate arrangements for making preaching, to the academic world, in the colleges and students, and we are making so many different arrangements to give an intellectual lecture to the audience to convince them that Krishna is the Supreme Personality Godhead, we are His eternal servants, and therefore our only business is to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But after all this endeavor of preaching, we are not very successful in convincing anybody that Krishna is God. But Prabhupada, when he said that simply we have to give them Krishna prasadam and the holy name, that itself is enough to awaken the sleeping soul. Just like Bhaktivinoda Thakur's song says, Jeev Jago, Gora Chandra Bole. That please wake up, sleeping soul. Don't lie in the lap of witch called Maya, and we just waste our time every moment. So when Prabhupada said that, I thought, it's such a simple process of preaching. We don't have to make any separate endeavors. If we look back on Srila Prabhupada himself, when he went to America in 1965, and later on, in 66, he moved to New York. What did he do? Did he arrange some intellectual seminars? Did he, some very intellectual gatherings where he spoke on a very esoteric philosophical presentation? No, Prabhupada just went in Tompkins Square Park with a pair of cartels, stood under that tree, which is we call now the Bhaktivinoda tree, and he just started chanting Hare Krishna. And as he was chanting Hare Krishna, people would come around and saying, what is this old man, Because it's a strange sight in New York city where there is not many trees there, it's just skyscrapers, and all of a sudden you go to Central Park and you find some greenery there. People come and try to associate with nature because they're missing nature. And when they see an old man standing under a tree playing kartals and singing these names which they don't understand what it is. Of course, now we know it's a Hare Krishna mantra because we are educated in the mantra. But if you hear it for the first time, you'd probably think, what is this strange chant or singing? They would all come and gather out of curiosity and inquisitiveness. So due to that, they gather around, and when Prabhupada saw a crowd, then he said, thank you very much for coming. And he said, our business is to take shelter of the Supreme Lord. And he invited them to 26 2nd Avenue. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Please come there. We have a nice program there. And what did Prabhupada do in those programs? Prabhupada, at the age of 70 plus, he was making great endeavor to cook and then offer it to Krishna. And after prasadam is all offered to Krishna, he would come and sit on his dais and chant kirtan. After chanting kirtan, he would speak a little bit about the philosophy. Then he said, okay, now time for prasadam. And he would sumptuously feed everyone by his own hands. Now, after all this endeavor Prabhupada did, what was the result? All these young boys and girls, they were immediately spiritually awakened. They were more inquisitive. And just like here in this purport, Prabhupada saying that one must approach a spiritual master and inquire from him. You know, the purpose of life, the goal of life, what we should be endeavoring for. And also that eternal question is to everyone, his mind and heart, why I am here? What is the purpose of my life? Because only in the human form of life we can make this inquiry. All the other forms of life, there is no inquiries. They just mind their own business of eating, sleeping, mating, defending. But in the human form of life, we have that inquisitiveness, which is also given to us by the grace of the Lord. But unfortunately, we are using this inquisitive nature of our qualities for inquiring about everything under the sky except the Supreme Lord. That's why we have these big institutes of schools, colleges, universities, and you go there and you study science and you try to figure out what is beyond our sky, and you are trying to figure out everything. But unless until you figure out who you are, all this knowledge is of useless. You know, we find so many chemists, physicists, biologists, presenting their knowledge they have gathered by their own research. But what is the end product? It's useless. Mankind thinks that by making this scientific advancement in life, it will solve many of our problems. Now we see in the past 100, 150 years, so much scientific advancement is made. If you look at the advancement which they are presenting to us, we see that this advancement is so elaborately explained to us that it will solve all our problems. Then we look around the world. Has it solved anybody's problems? We are getting more and more disease conditions. We are getting more and more starvation, lack of food. And we are fighting for food. Some people have more food than others. So where is this knowledge taking us? It's not solving any problems. The other day I read this article. They said that in every country practically they are making a new hospital. Every year they build a new hospital. And as soon as the hospital is built and open to the public, it's filled up with people. I can give you my own example in our little country, which we think we are the center of the universe, England, where the king rules the world. It used to be the queen, but now it's the king. And we think, we have everything. But our health service is so terrible now that you have to wait 6 to 8 months just to get some treatment. One of my friends was just telling me 3 days back that his mother had a fall and she had bruised her knee. And you can literally see the knee is swollen and is so badly bruised. It needs immediate attention. The doctor said, yes, take this painkiller, go back and come back after 6 months, because we have no room for you to serve you. So this old lady, she has to suffer for 6 months. And the inconvenience of suffering of a bad knee, I can tell you. Right now I'm suffering from a spinal injury, and it is difficult. And I'm sure several people also saying we are all now carrying the head of a stick here to move around even, And it's such a difficult thing. You cannot handle that. So this lady, now she's been asked, wait 6 months before we can attend to your injury. So you can see that even though with so much advancement, so much economic development, billions and billions of pounds, dollars, euros, francs, whatever currency you want to name, is there. But has it solved anybody's problems? It's not solving anybody's problem. So most important aspect is, as mentioned here by King Rahugana, is to inquire. Inquire from who? Someone who actually understands the science of self-realization. So here Prabhupada is saying we have to approach a spiritual master who is knowledged in the science of self-realization. And as soon as we approach the spiritual master, we submissively inquire from him. Of course, Prabhupada said we don't make a challenging inquiry, but we make submissive inquiry. So when you submissively approach, then what does that mean when you say submissive? Submissive means that you're actually approaching the spiritual master with ignorance in your heart. Let's say, I don't know anything. But sometimes we approach with the mentality, yes, I have now read the Bhagavad Gita, so I am pretty much proficient in the knowledge. So now I'll approach and challenge certain aspects which are presented by the spiritual master. So it is very important an aspect of understanding how to approach the spiritual master. And once we approach the spiritual master, we should then totally surrender onto him. Accept completely what he says without any doubt. Now, generally we don't do that. We have many doubts. Of course, I would say that it is unfortunate that sometimes we find that the spiritual master is not a self-realized person. And therefore, he may not give you the perfect knowledge. So we begin to doubt that person or challenge that person. But if you are submissively rendering service to that person, then ultimately it is not that person who is going to give you knowledge. It is the Supreme Lord who is going to give you the knowledge. That is my understanding. Just like Lord Brahma, when he was given the service of creation, and when Brahma first appeared on the lotus from the navel of Lord Vishnu, there was complete darkness. And then Brahma went on deep meditation to figure out what is his duty. And of course, because he was so deeply meditating on the Supreme Lord, that the Supreme Lord revealed this knowledge to him in his heart. As the first sloka of the first canto is saying, Tene Hridaya Brahma, that it comes from the heart, is revealed by the Supreme Lord. So similarly, that knowledge will also be revealed to us by the Supreme Lord. And when we are connected with the Supreme Lord in that spirit, then the Supreme Lord will reveal this knowledge to us without fail. Now, Prabhupada explains to us that this super soul in the heart is your spiritual master in your heart who will reveal this knowledge to you. But then you need an external person to connect with, who is connected with the spiritual paramparic line where the knowledge is coming down. So that person, he may not be 100% pure in his status, but he still has the knowledge to guide you and connect you to the spiritual parampara. So sometimes we have this misconception that our spiritual connection to the spiritual master is something which is cannot be explained in the material science. We think it is some kind of magic that you sit down there, you accept spiritual master, and then he gives you your spiritual name and initiates you into the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. You think, wow, this is it. Now I am all of a sudden from Tamaguna, I am going to Satyaguna. I was raised to the highest platform. It doesn't happen like that. We have this misconception. And I generally say that the spiritual master is the connector. He is not the connection. Connection to our spiritual master is to the Supreme Lord himself. He is the connection. And the spiritual master who is coming in the paramparic line, they are all connectors. They connect you. Their business is to connect you. Once they connect you to the spiritual master, to the previous spiritual master, then through that connection, ultimately that connection is coming to Krishna, the Supreme Lord. And when that connection is there, then the flow of mercy, the knowledge will come down to you. And then you'll be able to perceive it. Now, of course, when we perceive this knowledge, it is up to the individual how sincere they are to grasp the knowledge. Again, I give this example that the teacher in the school is fully versed with the subject matter the teacher is teaching. And the teacher, because that's position given to that person, because he has some qualification, otherwise you can't just have anybody teaching in the school. You know, you have a certain qualification requirement. So when the teacher is teaching to the students in the class, maybe there's a class of 25 students, maybe 30 students. On average, it is about 25 to 30 students. So the teacher is teaching to all of them the same knowledge. He's not giving something different to individuals. But the perception of all the 30 students or 25 students, whichever it may be, is different. And how we can see this is that after the subject matter is taught, there is an examination, and all the students have been taught the same thing by the same teacher, from the same book, same chapters, everything same. Now all the students are sitting for exam. They have all been asked the same question, but the answers are different. Now one would wonder, why the answers are different? Because we have been taught the same thing. So if we are taught the same thing, then the answers to the question should be similar. Maybe wording might be slightly different, but the principle of the answer should be the same. But we find that some students answer perfectly. Some students, half answer is correct. Others, they don't answer completely. So when you look at the result of the students at the end, when the teacher is marking the paper, you get A plus, A, B, B plus, C, C plus, D, and then next, 0, failure. So why would each student get different gradation? They've taught the same knowledge by the same teacher, from the same books, everything is same. But the perception is different. So similarly, I would say, in my understanding, is that as we are spiritual students, we are also being taught the same knowledge coming down in our scriptures and of our spiritual master, and also we are very fortunate that by mercy of Srila Prabhupada, that in this institute we have so many senior devotees who are giving lectures every day and giving us opportunity to understand this. But our perception is different because our mood of surrender is not complete. And one who is completely surrendered will accept everything as it is. And therefore, when we accept this knowledge as given to us by Prabhupada as it is, without any speculation, then Krishna will give us the ability to realize this knowledge. And this realization only comes not through some intellectual studies. Intellectual studies are there, but it's not the foundation. The foundation is your faith in the holy name. And as I said in that lecture, Prabhupada said that the actual realization comes when you have implicit faith in the holy name. So the holy name is the ultimate answer to our self-realization. Of course, we have been taught to chant Hare Krishna mantra every day. When we come to at least spiritually awaken and make inquisitiveness, and we come and inquire, what is the first thing we are told? Chant Hare Krishna. And then, we have sessions where we give them all one japa mala and sit together with them and say, okay, this is how we chant. with the middle finger, the thumb, you hold the bead and go Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And we chant with them. And we encourage them to chant and say, now, you know the mantra is very simple, 16 syllables, or the 3 words, Hare, Krishna and Rama. And when we explain to them that this is very simple mantra in the systematic way of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So it's not very difficult to memorize this. And we all know this. And then we start chanting Hare Krishna. And as we are chanting, it's supposed to be the foundation of our spiritual journey. But then after some times, we become a bit more familiar with knowledge and understanding of the practice, then we start speculating and we deviate from that. So instead of having complete faith in the holy name, we have faith in other things. And we try so many other aspects. Nowadays I see many times, we are trying to do different kind of yoga and this, that and others to improve our self-realization. But it's not going to help you. Because the process is very simple. Prabhupada said, chanting the holy name is the process. Now, let's go back to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course, now from hindsight we know, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, that he's not just an ordinary person. He is the same God, same Krishna, has come in the mood of a devotee. So 500 years ago when Lord Chaitanya appeared in this world, as a young boy, he was known as Nimai Pandit. And of course, in India, when you're given a title Pandit, means you're a very highly learned person. Now, when you give a title of a learned person to a young child, that child must be very, very learned. Otherwise, he's not just willy-nilly giving the title. So Lord Chaitanya was Nimai Pandit, and he used to have many, many discourses with many, many elderly persons who were well familiar with the subject matter. But he would defeat them. And as time went past, Lord Chaitanya was preaching and discussing with many, many people. Many times these big, big scholars would avoid Lord Chaitanya simply because their egos would be hurt that this young man will defeat me. So they would avoid him. But the point I want to make is that at one point when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Gaya and he met Ishwara Puri, immediately he recognized Ishwara Puri's potential, that here is a real self-realized person. And therefore, he approached to him and said, please give me shelter, give me knowledge, give me guidance. Just like here it says, Tadvidubhrani Pratena Pariprashana Sevaya. So he approached Ishwara Puri. And Ishwara Puri, of course, being a very, very elevated Vaishnava, he understood that this person who's approaching me is no ordinary person. He's the Supreme Lord. Because only a pure devotee can recognize the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, it is very difficult to recognize the Supreme Lord. So when Ishwara Puri recognized him, he said, no, I am not qualified to give you shelter. On the contrary, you are the one who can give shelter. But of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to teach us the very important aspect of what Krishna is teaching us in Bhagavad Gita. Tadvidi prani pratena pariprashana seva. One must approach a bona fide spiritual master and take shelter from him. So the Lord himself is setting example to us that he also accepted the spiritual master. Now when he accepted spiritual master, then Ishwara Puri, what did he tell Mahaprabhu? Forget all these big discourses and discussions and seminars and all these things. There's no need for this. Simply chant Hare Krishna. So from that point onwards, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took that instruction and he took that instruction to heart, and he went on and he was just chanting Hare Krishna everywhere. And people who knew Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu before, he's saying, what's happened to this person? He's become a madman. He's just going everywhere, going Hare Krishna, Krishna. Just like, when we go on Harinam, and we are so absorbed in chanting the holy name, people look and say, the crazy Hare Krishnas, they're little screws loose in their brain, what are they doing this? They're just jumping up and down and chanting Hare Krishna. But of course, that is the process of joy, because when we are connecting with Krishna and chanting the holy name, it is naturally you feel like dancing and jumping up and down with joy, because that joy comes from the chanting of the holy name. And the point is that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he establishes chanting as the basis of self-realization. And from that point onwards, he went all over India, only doing Harinam. And then later on, after Mahaprabhu came great Goswamis and many other elevated Vaishnavas in the line of our Gaudiya Vaishnava Parampara. And then during the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, many of them kind of deviated, became Sahajiyas. And they were just misusing the process of self-realization for their own grandeur, or probably, we become, elevated persons, and people would worship you and honor you and respect you. So it was deviating. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he prayed to the Lord that he sent me someone who can take this mission forward of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And of course, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati came to him, and then from very young age, he was very, focused in the knowledge, because he was not ordinary person. As we know now, that he is a Vaikuntha person. He came from the spiritual world. It was not like you and me. We were running around in this universe of this cosmos for many, many lifetimes, from one birth to another birth, from one species to another species, and going round in circles. But he actually came from the spiritual world to assist Lord Chaitanya's mission. And later on, after so many wonderful Vaishnavas who took shelter of Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, one amongst them was His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami Prabhupada. And Prabhupada took this very seriously. As we know from Prabhupada Lila, that when Prabhupada first time met Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati on the rooftop in Ultatanga, and he didn't actually want to go there, but he was coerced by his friend that there's a saintly sadhu here, let's go and see him. And of course, Prabhupada was very familiar with so many saintly persons who would visit their home, because his father Gaur Mohan De was also a devotee of Krishna, a Vaishnava, and wherever some sadhus came around, he would take them home and then worship them and offer them food and hear from them. So Prabhupada from very young age was familiar with all these sadhus, and Prabhupada said, I've seen many sadhus, So Prabhupada was not interested. But then, when he was coerced by his friend, he went there, and the first time Prabhupada saw Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati right across the rooftop, immediately said, yes, here is some great person. He's not just ordinary sadhu. He's someone very unique, very special. So immediately at that point, in his heart, Prabhupada accepted him as a spiritual master. Although we know from Prabhupada Lila now that it took many years later until he formally approached Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur for initiation, but he had already accepted him. And at that time also, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur saw Prabhupada is a very young, nicely dressed like a gentleman and looked very educated person. So he gave an instruction that you are a young educated man, take this message to the English-speaking world. So Prabhupada took that to his heart. And then later on, of course, he started associating with the Gaudiya Math devotees, his godbrothers and other devotees, started serving. And as Prabhupada was a householder, so he could not commit himself fully, but he did whatever he could. And as he was progressing in his service to the spiritual master and then the mission of the spiritual master, later on he saw that I must become a bit more serious. So he actually then, decided that he's going to commit himself fully to the preaching mission, because he still had that instruction in his heart. Speak this language, this subject matter to the English-speaking world. So of course, Prabhupada was there, and then he started the League of Devotees. He was not having much success there. Then he went to Vrindavan and took shelter of Rupa Goswami, and he was preparing, and he's thinking, these instructions are given to me. And then later on also Bhaktisiddhanta gave him instruction in Radhakund. But if you ever get money, print books and write books about this subject matter. So Prabhupada had these instructions given to him by his spiritual master. And Prabhupada then took this to his heart. Right up to the age of 70, sitting there in Radha Damodar temple and meditating on Rupa Goswami and saying, I've got this, what shall I do? But my time is running out, I'm getting old man. I don't have any facilities to do. Then Prabhupada took that bold step. Okay, come what may, I'm going to go and fulfill the order of my Guru and spread this mission of Lord Chaitanya. And of course, what was Lord Chaitanya's mission? Lord Chaitanya's mission was to spread the holy name all over the universe. Everywhere you go, holy name should be spread. In fact, he himself says, Yare dekho kyare kaho Krishna upadesh. Wherever you go, who you meet, just speak about Krishna. Now, we know this instruction from Lord Chaitanya, but how much of that are we putting in practice? In our 24-hour day, we meet so many people. How many times we are actually eagerly enthusiastic to preach and talk about Krishna? Very rare. Unless someone is inquiring, then says, oh, you're interested, okay, then you start speaking to them. Otherwise, we are not so much eager to preach. But the point is that Prabhupada was very eager to preach. And when Prabhupada went to America, what did he do? He just simply said, chant Hare Krishna. He said nothing else. And then he introduced the early Sankirtan. He told his devotees, who are now very much fired up to become very close to Prabhupada and understanding Prabhupada's mission and surrender to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, okay, now you go on Harinam. So I still remember when I first joined, way back in 1979, it was just 2 years later after Prabhupada's departure from this material world, we were going Harinam practically every day. Every day Harinam was there. Now Harinam is on some festival days. We don't even go on Harinams. I can understand that some countries may have restrictions. Legally, you cannot go up and down the streets and chant. But there are other ways you can chant. Like I see in New York now, a lot of devotees go down and put a little carpet, sit down with the harmonium and start chanting. And people are passing by and listening to the holy names. So there are different innovative ways to give everyone the holy name. But point is that Prabhupada gave this basic principle of chanting Hare Krishna. We chant Hare Krishna and we tell everybody else to chant Hare Krishna. And that's all we have to do, because there's not much we can preach to them about. But as they start taking shelter of the holy name, then the heart becomes more and more opened up to Krishna. And then they will make, the natural inquiry will be there. And there will be then that inquisitiveness, as I said earlier on, that inquisitiveness is there to inquire. And you will start inquiring more and more into the subject matter. Then you will try to find where I can find. So in our experience, we find sometimes that, some random person walks in into the temple and says, I met your guys down the street 2 weeks ago, and they told me something about Hare Krishna, and they said, I want to know more. So, because he heard the holy name, and maybe at the time he might have received some prasadam. So either prasadam or the holy name, both are equal potent. Then they come and inquire, and then they know where to inquire. And also, by Prabhupada's mercy, we do the Sankirtan, or book distribution. We go and give out books, we give out prasadam, we give out the holy name. And all we have to do is follow the simple formula of distribute books, give them the holy name, and give them prasadam. And Krishna will do the rest. So our business is simply do that. And coming back to this verse, well, we understand, a quick recap, that Bharat Maharaj, at the advanced age, he understood the Vedic principles very clearly. So although he was the emperor of the whole world, he renounced it. Now, it's not very easy to renounce very easily when you have, power and position. But Bharat Maharaj, he did everything and he went to the forest where he was going to just live a solitude life and just meditate on the Supreme Lord. But being a great person and a heart full of compassion, he felt compassion towards the baby deer who had just lost the mother. So he said, okay, this little life is going to struggle on his own. Let me help that become a little bit mature. So of course, out of his compassion, he developed attachment to take care of the baby deer. And while in that consciousness, he tripped over, he fell, and he died. So his consciousness was the deer. Although he renounced the whole kingdom, but still that small attachment was there. Now that attachment was not there because of he had some deep liking for the deer, but it was out of compassion in his heart. So next birth was a deer. So in his deer's birth, he was blessed by special understanding that he remembered everything from his past life. So he knows, okay, I made a big mistake last time. No more mistakes. So the deer would hang around where the sages were, and he would sit there at the distance and hear the sages chanting the holy names or performing yagyas or discussing scriptural discussions, and he was focused on that. And after that, when the leaf plates were discarded, the Bharat Maharaj as a deer would go and eat the remnants of the Mahaprasad from the sages. And eventually, he gave up his body. But his next body, he became Jat Bharat. Now, we would think, using our speculative intelligence, that he renounced everything, and then in the next life as a deer, he was very, very mindful. He did not do anything. He didn't live a deer's life. He lived the life of a human being, you can say, in a deer's body, because he was always attracted to the sages, hearing from the sages, taking remnants from the sages, and he didn't do the deer thing, basically, the animal thing. So we would have thought that he would get elevated back to the spiritual world. But he took birth as Jat Bharat. Now, as a Jat Bharat, he also remembered everything, his position. But King Rahugana is coming in that line of the dynasty of Bharat Maharaj. Now, King Rahugana was going a little off track. He was deviating. So Jat Bharat had to come and correct him, do the course correction here, to teach him. And of course, through teaching King Rahugana, he's also teaching us, because we are now recipient of Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, where he is discussing about this subject matter. So the point is that it all kind of clicks in, and this is not just by chance is happening. It is by the divine provision from the Supreme Lord to uplift the living entities in the material world, to bring them on course. So he's doing course correction for us. So every time when you read Srimad Bhagavatam, there is lots and lots of knowledge and understanding given to us to follow the principles very seriously, because it's a very short life. And I can tell you that now I'm getting old, and I can realize time is not on my side. Any day I could drop dead, and I hope that moment when he comes, I'm going to say, Krishna, I'm going to remember you. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult. So it's 8:30. I think I'll stop here. Anybody has any comments, any questions?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for your lecture. I just wanted to ask, there the books that glorify Srimad Bhagavatam and glorify Bhagavad Gita and the glorification of Ekadashi, and I think I read somewhere that even if, I don't know if it was a story of a person who was reading Srimad Bhagavatam, anyway, had to do something with bhakti. And then this person died and left a skeleton. And then there was a bird or some kind of an animal, and then the bird just jumped into, I think water where this skeleton was, and then it said that it got liberation. So my question is that sometimes they say, like, or even the rat who, I think he burned his tail, right? And then they say that he left to the spiritual world. So my question is, okay, I think maybe I know the answer because I think Jada Bharata was teaching by example, but also like if he was a deer and then he had this remembrance of the past life and he, as you said, he lived even like a sage, but still Krishna didn't like took him to the spiritual world. So sometimes when I hear all these stories, I mean this story concretely, it seems such a long way that even for such a exalted personality like Bharat Maharaj, who even renounced everything, and then, okay, he made this mistake, and then he became a deer, and then he remembered, but still he had to be born again, even though, of course, in an exalted position, but still, like, can you maybe?
Yeah, see, we have to understand that what is our business. Our business, at least in this life, is that we have been enlightened by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and his devotees, that we have come to Krishna consciousness. And what is our goal? Ultimately, to go back to the spiritual world. Now, whether we are in the material world or we are in the spiritual world, what is our business? To serve the Supreme Lord. Jivere Swarupa Nitya Krishna Das. Eternally we are servant of Krishna. But all these persons, when we read in the Srimad Bhagavatam, like for example, you are saying that Bharat Maharaj became a deer and then Jat Bharat, why he didn't go to spiritual world? You see, when we become fully surrendered to the Supreme Lord, then we are his, I use my language, we are his toys. He plays with us the way he likes. So generally, the Supreme Lord, he uses all his pure devotees for missionary work. So here, Jat Bharat he didn't have to take birth as Jat Bharat, but there was a mission for him to fulfill. Do a course correction for the dynasty of Bharat Maharaj's lineage. As we know from the story, that Jat Bharat, Rahugana became very arrogant. He was carried by this palanquin, and even a little jerk, he was so angry, uncontrolled. So he was abusing his citizens as a king. So of course, Jat Bharat had to teach him, and therefore then he realized, yes, actually you are not just an ordinary, because he looked like a bum, unclean and long matted hair, and because he just wanted to be renounced from the world, but he had full of knowledge, so he accepted. So what I say is that we have to depend on Krishna, that how he shows his mercy upon us, not how we want to be, receive his mercy. Just like the rat, was there and his tail got burnt, and he was waving his tail around, and Krishna, hey, he's offering me arti. So Krishna can take it like that. It's his prerogative. So he can deliver, just like the dog who followed Sivananda Sen all the way, and then right towards the end, the dog could not wait anymore. So he left the party and went straight to Puri, where Mahaprabhu was sitting there. And he went in the audience where he's sitting there, and Mahaprabhu took a little piece of Mahaprasad and threw the dog. Dog ate that, and immediately, boom, went to spiritual world. But generally we say dogs are dirty animals. But how did Lord? Mahaprabhu, because the dog had that intensity to see the Lord, and he came all the way with the association of Sivananda Sen and his group, who were coming from Navadip to Jagannath Puri to see the Lord. They were performing Sankirtan, chanting all the time. So dog was hearing the holy names, and of course we cannot kind of say any particular restriction in how the Lord shows his mercy upon a particular living entity. So we should not be, because as I said, that we might start using our intelligence and speculate. Well, this doesn't sound right. Well, maybe to you or to me it doesn't sound right, but to the Lord it sounds okay, because he does what he wants to do, and the Lord is perfect. He never does anything wrong. But sometimes we see things the Lord is doing which is imperfect. So we should just accept that the Lord, in his mysterious way, he shows his mercy upon us, and he delivers us. So our business is simply to pray to him, and chant the holy names. That's all.
Hare Krishna. Regarding the verse, Maharaj Rahugana is like asking Maharaj Bharat to clarify something that was not understood by Maharaj like in the first place. And I find that a very significant point in the guru-disciple relationship, that he actually has a desire to understand knowledge deeper. And he also you mentioned the verse from Bhagavad Gita 4:34, then Upadik Shanti Te Gyanam, Gyaninas Tattvadarshina, and it seems the transmission of transcendental knowledge is actually very, or like the essential part of the guru-disciple relationship, and that we seek enlightenment through transcendental knowledge. And in your class you said now that actually it's not the guru, like the Chaitya Guru, which is like externally manifest, who gives the knowledge, but rather that the Paramatma in the disciple's heart is the giver of knowledge. And to me it seems like contradictory. And can you again say some words on that?
See, it is very simple to understand that you approach the spiritual master. Spiritual master, on behalf of his spiritual master, accepts and gives you the knowledge. Now, of course, it's Gyaninas Tattva Darshana. I mean, he is also self-realized in the subject matter. But for you to actually understand that subject knowledge, you need the help of the Supreme Lord to help you understand that. Just like, as I said, you go to, you learn things. You pick up the book. This Bhagavatam, as Prabhupada says, is non-different from the Supreme Lord. It is a transcendental literature. It is a literature of self-realization. So you may pick up the Bhagavatam and read. Now you may understand certain points from it. Other things will not be very deep. So you have to get the mercy of the Lord in order to understand. Only by the mercy of the Lord can you understand the Lord. Otherwise you cannot understand. Just like in the Bhagavad, it says, Bhaktya mam abhijananti. That if you want to know me through the process of bhakti, you can know me, and then I am the one who will reveal to you. So it's not the Guru who reveals Krishna to you. Guru says, here is Krishna. He points you in the direction. But he doesn't say that I will show you Krishna. Krishna will reveal himself. Unless until Krishna reveals himself to you, you will not understand him.
But how do we then understand the statement that it said the Chaitya Guru in the heart reciprocates with the Jiva soul who is sincere by sending a Guru who is manifest externally as the spiritual master? So it seems to me it is actually essential that through the mercy of the transcendental via medium, as your Prabhupada called it, the transcendental, also we sing Didnya Gyan Rida Prokrasito, that transcendental knowledge is revealed in the heart by the mercy of the spiritual master. So that's I find irritating, or like at least I'm not clear about like.
No, this is spiritual master, as I said, also is an extension of the Paramatma. Yeah. But he's not the Paramatma. So, because as long as the spiritual master has that deep connection with Supreme Lord and his Guru, then he can transmit that knowledge. I think Sanatana wants to make some.
Hare Krishna. The spiritual master is more merciful than Krishna, it is said. Because first of all, the soul has to agree to come from the spiritual world to teach you here. And then, as far as I understand, it is called Guru Tattva. So that is already, when the spiritual master speaks to you, that is not the person, the body, it is Krishna speaking to you. When we're chanting our Gayatri, we say that every day. Krishna, directly Krishna is speaking to you via the mouth of the spiritual master.
Is it clear now, or you still have doubt?
Yes, Baba.
This is Bhagavad himself.
Hare Krishna. Wonderful class, Maharaj. When you speak about Bhagavatam, then you speak about Srila Prabhupada and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There is a complete sandwich for the morning Bhagavatam class. Yeah, it should be 3 together always. So thank you very much, Maharaj. The question, as Srila Prabhupada said something like that, Brahmand Brahmite koi bhagivan jiva Guru Krishna prasade paye bhakti lata bij. So this is the verse Prabhupada used to quote. But Dhruva Maharaj never went to find out the spiritual master. He just went to find out the God. But the God as a super soul in the heart of Dhruva Maharaj understood his intention. And then same God is in the spiritual master's heart also as a Chaitya Guru, as a super soul. So he directed his spiritual master to go and direct the disciple and instruct him. So it's a super soul who is actually doing this whole business.
But through the spiritual master.
What's him? Through spiritual master. He sent the spiritual master to teach you. Now I will tell you what the spiritual master will do. What is the initiation definition is? Jai Kale Shishya Kare Atma Samarpan. By the time the disciple surrendered to his spiritual master, Sei Kale Krishna Kare Apsam. It's not the spiritual master, but Krishna accept him. You understand? But the word is not, you surrender to spiritual master and Krishna will accept you as his own. Now let me tell you a good example. What Maharaj was saying, I was thinking about that. You know, Krishna is like a magnet. We are like a piece of iron. Naturally, we are supposed to be attracted to Krishna. Is okay? Now the piece of gold is rusted because of water and mud and sand and everything. So even if you put that piece on the magnet, it won't attract, right? So a spiritual master business is to de-rust the nail. As soon as you de-rust the nail is automatically connected to the magnet. But Maharaj says something more. He will connect you with God. He is a connector. So he will connect to God. It means the spiritual master is connected with, say if you have a big magnet, then you have a big chain of the needles connected to one another. That power is coming from magnet down through this, that is called parampara. Is this example clearing what I'm saying? It's very simple. The business of spiritual master is to de-rust. That is called sadhana. Bhakti Lata Bij is rules and regulation of devotional service. The Bhakti Lata Bij is rules and regulation of devotional service given by a spiritual master. That is Vaidhi Sadhan Bhakti. That is Vaidhi Sadhan Bhakti. And that will first Klesha Ghani, that will first destroy all the sinful activities and their byproduct and everything. So it will clear Cheto Darpan Marma. That stage will come. Then everything will be revealed from inside. It will be revealed from inside simply. You have to be Agyanen Avartam Jnanam. It is our knowledge is covered by ignorance, and a spiritual master is to remove the ignorance. He de-rust. That is the main business of the spiritual master. As our Sanak Sanatan Prabhu says, the spiritual master is more merciful than Krishna. Krishna Kripa Murti, his divine grace, because he gives the mercy of Krishna very easily and freely to everybody. Krishna never gives devotion to anybody. He only gives devotion through his spiritual master, through Vaishnava, through a devotee. Is it clear?
I understand what you're saying, yes.
Thank you.
You see, just one point is very important to understand. What does Krishna say in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita? He says, he says, Sarva dharmam parijata mamekam shramraja. You have to fulfill so many conditions. Then aham tam sarva papabhyo, he says, and I'll free you. Now, when the spiritual master comes, as Sarva Prabhu is saying that he's more merciful, Sanatana is also saying he's more merciful. Is Prabhupada, when he went to America, all these young boys and girls were coming, then he said, well, you are all hippies, meat eaters, sex enjoyers, taking drugs, alcohol. No, stop all this nonsense first. Then I can take you next. No, Prabhupada didn't do that. Prabhupada said, yes, please come. Don't worry. Do what you are doing. Take prasadam, chant Hare Krishna. And as they were taking prasadam and Hare Krishna, they understood, as he's saying, de-rusting. So Prabhupada de-rusted them, and they became gems. And they became so wonderful gems. Within 6 to 8 months, 1 year, Prabhupada said, you open center, you go on, and they all went everywhere and started opening centers. With very little experience. But they had faith in Prabhupada. And Prabhupada had already done enough cleaning of their, contamination that they could connect. So connection is very important, but the connector is also most important. If the connector doesn't know how to connect, then you cannot have a connection. See, just like, the electricity's powerhouse is there, and you have a nice house with all the chandeliers, everything, but the electrician doesn't do the connection job properly, then it doesn't connect.
Maybe I can shortly say what led me to the question. I got the impression from the class that the transmission of transcendental knowledge or the enlightenment on the side of the guru is not so relevant. That was the impression I got. That's why I was asking.
Okay. Anyway, maybe I didn't present it properly, but the point I was trying to make is that the knowledge doesn't come from just reading or from hearing from a person. Even if it's a spiritual master, it has to have that, as Prabhupada mentions in the purport, that you have to render service. You see, hearing is one part, but you have to render service. And when the spiritual master is pleased with your service, then he will open that little window where Paramatma will give into your Paramatma, because it's Paramatma in your heart, and the Supreme Lord will then give you knowledge through the heart. Because it's not something external, it has come from internal. Mostly we think it is external. That's why we are studying and books and doing this and that. And I said, okay, we have a very nice setup now in Mayapur and Vrindavan, and many other centers are doing Bhakti Shastri. This is the first basic principle of understanding Bhagavad Gita, Nectar Instruction, Nectar of Devotion, Ishopanishad, these 4 books. We meticulously studying, nicely. But after doing Bhakti Shastri, you still don't get self-realization. It has to come with the connection with the Supreme when He reveals this thing. Ultimately, it is the Supreme Lord who reveals. So that's the point I was trying to make, that we have to have the connections all properly situated, then the revelation will come. Then Krishna will see that, yes, you are eager to know me, now I will give you that. Because Krishna will not give himself to anybody unless he knows that this living entity is now fully ready. Because as Prabhupada says, when Supreme Lord gives himself to you, that means that you are his servant, but more than that, he becomes your servant. And Krishna is not going to be willy-nilly anybody's servant. He's very particular about whom he will serve, unless he is completely devoted to him. So that's the point I was trying to connect here. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Hare Krishna.
Dear devotees, those of you who understand Hindi, today there is a nice opportunity to hear from His Grace Sarvabhauma Prabhu at 12:20 here at the temple room during the Hindi program. And then I think Maharaj is going to Langenthal. Just a quick question, who is planning to go for the Harinam in Lucerne? Please raise your hand. I need to... Okay.
Go, all of you go. That's our business. Thank you. I would come, but I cannot walk. for Krishna. That's our business of spreading the holy name to everyone. That's why Mahaprabhu is saying, whether we go, but of course, we have to be selective. We just can't just everyone wants to speak about Krishna. There we can do is, we have a moment, they're giving these books out, then you give them the book and explain about the book. While you're talking about book, you speak about Krishna. Just recently, I read one article about there was so much criticism about ISKCON and Prabhupada. And someone went to Prabhupada and said, this article that printed is criticizing you and ISKCON. Prabhupada said, how many times they mentioned Krishna? They said, oh, 16 times. That's okay. At least whoever reads this article, they will read Krishna 16 times. So at least they are criticizing, but they will hear Krishna's name. Krishna's name is so powerful that it will have more impact than the criticism. Their hearts will melt because they attend Krishna's name. So either way, Prabhupada said, we have to give them holy name. Prabhupada was not upset. How many times there is Krishna in the article? This many times Krishna was mentioned. That's the person who reads the article